Dude named Terry Moran here on the left, he interviewed Donald Trump. I think he's from ABC, and he actually pushed back against Donald Trump with a bunch of his questions. I was surprised. It was really good. But Donald Trump's answers were like psychotic. Some of the stuff he said was just wild. Listen to this. This is them talking about the Declaration of Independence. You know, the document that the founding fathers sent to King George to say, go f*** yourself, we're quitting and starting our own country. Remember that document?
Here you have the original of Abraham Lincoln and George Washington, and of course you have the Declaration of Independence.
What does it mean to you?
Well, it means exactly what it says. It's a declaration. It's a declaration of unity.
It's a declaration of unity. No f***ing joke. It's a declaration. It is literally the exact opposite of a declaration of unity. Are you f***ing me right now?
It's a declaration of unity and love and respect, and it means a lot, and it's something very special to our country.
Look at the dude's face. Oh my God, just there, like, what the f***? What are you talking about? Are you drunk right now? What is happening?
To our country.
He literally couldn't think of any other adjective, not a single adjective, other than unity. Why did he pick that one? He did it to entertain the shit out of me, right? Because he succeeded gloriously. It is so fucking stupid. Anyway, there was just like a barrage of stupid like that in this interview. So I want to watch like just a couple little clips from it. Let's see what he got. Let's see what he has going on here. Trump responds to questions about tariffs and the economy. Let's see what he had to say here.
I want to start with the economy, the number one issue for so many people.
It's the thing that's destroying his reputation the most right now, I believe, out of anything. It's the tariffs. Far-right, MAGA, even centrist people are surprisingly okay with what's happening with immigration, sending people to concentration camps. But tariffs, with their money, and they will not, they're not going to follow you anymore.
About everybody. It's one of the main reasons that you're back in this office. And now we have this trade war with China that Moody's and other analysts say is going to cost American families.
And it was completely pointless. There's absolutely no reason. What is he trying to get with this trade war? What was the goal? There was no point to it.
Analysts say it's going to cost American families thousands of more dollars per year. And there is a lot of concern out there.
God, and bare minimum thousands.
People are worried. Even some people who voted for you saying, I didn't sign up for this. So how do you answer those concerns?
Well, they did sign up for it.
He's actually correct. He's correct.
Actually, and this is what I campaigned on. I said that we've been abused by other countries.
He did. He
at
said
levels that nobody's ever seen before. We were losing $3 to $5 billion a day on trade.
That's not how it works. If I get paid through Patreon, and then I take my Patreon check and I go buy groceries with it, I have a trade deficit with Walmart because they have my money and I have their goods. To reverse that trade deficit, Walmart would have to sign up to my Patreon. It's not a bad thing to have a trade deficit, like at all. It in itself is not bad. And it doesn't mean we're sending these countries like $3 billion just to have. It means we're sending them $3 billion and getting something back for it. People did sign up for this. He's right. They did. Because they are either dumb as dog or have just, fallen into the trap of being the most gullible person alive to believe what he has to say of all people. You should have seen what he did over the past 4 years, or over the previous 4 years in his past term, 2016 to 2020. You should have seen what he did there and recognize exactly what was going to happen in this one. He's going to be a fucking moron. I'll give you this. 7% of the United States believes that chocolate milk comes from brown cows, and that group in the U.S. just about guaranteed they voted for Donald Trump. So that explains 7% of his votes. But I don't know what's going on with the other 43% or whatever it was, really. Somebody points out, LHatch71, what happened to the Doge bonus checks? Yeah, I thought that Doge was going to destroy the federal government and give us all of the money, send out checks to each one of us for what they saved. It's such a joke. It's ridiculous.
We were losing $1.5 trillion to $2 trillion a year.
That's not how trade deficits work. You telling me that I lose like $2,000 a year to Walmart? No, I got goods back for that.
Not sustainable. They were taking advantage of us like they've never. I could have left it that way, and at some point there would have been an implosion like nobody's ever seen.
I mean, he wrote the last trade deal, so I don't know what he's complaining about.
But I said, no, we have to fix it. I've wanted to do this for many years. You know, I had the best economy.
No.
During my first term, we had a tremendous economy, tremendous success.
No, you didn't. You can blame that on COVID hitting at the end of your economy or whatever all you want, but you didn't have the best economy. You just did not. It's just completely made up.
And we did tremendous numbers of tariffs we took in a lot of money from tariffs, China in particular.
You don't take in money from tariffs. Well, you do, but that's not supposed to be the goal. Okay, you're not supposed to try to take money in from tariffs. It's to decrease the amount of goods that the American people purchase from that country to stimulate local supply chains and local industries and stuff. That is the point of tariffs, or to punish other countries, but that's really not a good idea. There are other ways to punish countries other than tariffs. It's really, really stupid to do that. Like sanctions are better. To be fair, though, Trump did place a bunch of tariffs down on China in his first term. Well, let me rephrase. Somebody in the office, somebody in the White House who actually, for the most part, kind of understands the basics of economics, put down tariffs on China, and Biden kept those tariffs in place when he got into office. So the tariffs against China previously were not necessarily the stupidest thing on planet Earth, but these ones are. They're like, what is he even trying to accomplish here? There's nothing to accomplish but hurting everybody else. You know, the honest answer that I have to this, why Trump would have done this, is because I believe he was trying to hurt other countries by preventing them from exporting goods to the United States and trying to get them to beg him to make a deal so that they were in his good graces, if you will, so that like they would owe him one or whatever. And a lot of little countries did do that. Little ones that couldn't afford to survive without selling their diamonds or whatever it is, emeralds. It was to increase his own power base, in my personal opinion, but he doesn't understand the first thing about economics or like geopolitics. Doesn't realize that they can f*** us right back if they choose, and they don't f***ing like you. So they're most definitely going to f*** you right back, for sure.
Hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs. We had no inflation, as you know. We had an
You're completely full of f***. A little bit of inflation is a good thing anyway. Of course we had inflation.
Incredible economy. We're given credit for a great economy. But I said, we have to fix this. Otherwise, it's just not self-sustaining.
God, he doesn't know literally anything about anything. I mean, really, this is right back to the Declaration of Independence thing. He doesn't know the first fucking thing about anything. So he also touched on Garcia, the Maryland guy that was sent to a concentration camp by mistake, quote unquote, according to the Trump administration. They did it by mistake. He talks about it here. Just a little bit of, if you're watching this 5 years in the future, a little bit of backstory to this. The Supreme Court ruled that Donald Trump must facilitate the return of I don't remember his full name. Must facilitate the return of Garcia. He was sent incorrectly. They must get him back. And Trump has just refused. It was a 9-0 ruling. First time Supreme Court has been unanimous on anything in 40 years or something. Abrego Garcia is his name. Was it Kilmar? For some reason, I was thinking Kilmar was the other guy, the college student. Kilmar Abrego Garcia is the name. Anyway, Supreme Court ruled unanimously, 9-0, that he must facilitate his return. And Trump just says, no.
Legally.
You could get him back. There's a phone on this desk.
I could.
You could pick it up, and with all the power of the presidency, you could call up the president of El Salvador and say, send him back right now.
And if he were the gentleman that you say he is, I would do that.
But the court has
he's
ordered
not.
you to facilitate
I'm not the one making this decision. We have lawyers.
You are literally the president. And for what it's worth, he just said I could. He admitted that he is capable of doing so and chooses not to. That is in direct defiance of the Supreme Court ruling. He does not have plausible deniability on this anymore because he acknowledged he absolutely could bring him back if he chose, and he is actively choosing not to.
Has ordered you to facilitate that.
I'm not the one making this decision. We have lawyers that don't want to do this.
Yeah, what are you talking about? You're not the one making the decision. What could you possibly mean by that? You are the president. Even more bizarrely, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, there's this famous picture that Donald Trump held up of him, like his knuckles, showing that he has MS-13 tattooed on his knuckles or whatever. If you look real close, this is Donald Trump holding up a picture of Kilmar Abrego Garcia's hand, allegedly. I don't even know if it's his hand, but you've got a picture of like a pot leaf. That's supposed to be M, I guess, for marijuana. Smiley is S, so MS. And then you have a cross and a skull. I don't know where the fuck you get 1 and 3 from, what those even mean in this context. He's not MS-13. He's not in any way, shape, or form MS-13 at all. Now, it's pretty obvious these are, somebody photoshopped MS-13 on top of them so that we can tell, what these tattoos are supposed to mean, right? Somebody photoshopped that on top. Look, it looks like it's Arial font. Apparently, Donald Trump thinks that it really was tattooed on his hand. MS-13 in Arial font. On the knuckle itself, not on his hand, but the actual bone where it meets. And it's all like jagged and like shapen and everything.
He wasn't a member of a gang. And then they looked, and on his knuckles, he had MS-13.
There's a dispute over that.
Wait a minute. He had MS-13 on his knuckles tattooed.
Oh, he had some tattoos that are interpreted that way. But let's move on.
Wait a minute. Hey, Terry.
He did not have the letter MS-13.
It says MS-13.
See, Trump, he can't believe this, right? There's no way in hell he actually thinks that these Arial font letters and numbers were tattooed on his hand. No way in hell. If I would assume that Trump, photoshopped this himself if I thought he was smart enough to use Photoshop. Smoke weed, get high, love God till you die. Is that what it means? Interesting. I've never heard that before. Smoke weed, get high, love God till you die. Huh. No, you're wrong. It means MS-13. It's so stupid, man. It is so stupid.
That was Photoshop. So let me
That was Photoshop. Terry, you can't do that. Hey, they're giving you the big break of a lifetime. You're doing the interview. I picked you because, frankly, I never heard of you, but that's...
You picked him because you hadn't heard of him before? What the f*** are you talking about?
Okay. But I picked you, Terry, but you're not being very nice.
You're being a f***ing idiot is the problem. You're literally claiming somebody tattooed letters in Arial font on some guy's knuckles. Are you f***ing me with this?
MS-13 tattoo.
We'll agree to disagree. I want to move on to something else.
Terry, do you want me to show you the picture?
I saw the picture. We'll
and you think it was Photoshop? Well,
here we go.
Don't Photoshop it. Go look.
Again, like I didn't even see the guy's face in it, so I don't trust that it's even his hand. But even assuming it is, it's Arial font, okay? And one of the 3 is like right on top of the skull. You cannot be real with this.
He did have tattoos that can be interpreted that way. I'm not an expert on them. I want to turn to Ukraine, sir. I want to get to Ukraine.
God, he's meeting Trump halfway, and Trump is absolutely insisting that he accept that this photoshopped Arial font is actually a tattoo.
No. He had MS as clear as you can be, not interpreted. This is why people no longer believe the news, because it's fake news. When he was photographed
in El Salvador, they aren't there.
That was a good response. Really good, actually.
But let's just go on. They aren't there when he's in El Salvador.
They weren't there, but they're there now, right?
No,
but they're
in your picture.
Terry.
Ukraine, sir.
He's got MS-13 on his knuckles.
All right.
Okay?
We'll take a look at that.
You do such a disservice.
We'll take a look at that.
Like, everything out of Trump's mouth is bullshit and a lie.
Just say, yes, he does, and, go on to something else.
It's contested.
Why don't you just say it? Because it's not f***ing true. You want to know what MS-13 tattoos look like? I'll show you what MS-13 tattoos actually look like. It's not ambiguous. It's pretty clear. Clear as day. It says MS-13. You know why? They're proud of being in this gang. They have to mark themselves to be a part of this gang. MS-13. No little symbols. Try to hide anything. No twisting it around. No lying. No, obfuscating. No pretending you're not MS-13. You're MS-13 till you die. That's what the tattoos look like. Here's another MS-13. Clear as day. MS-13. They don't try to hide this when they get these gang tattoos. Here's another MS-13. Donald Trump is just like every word out of his mouth is a lie. I don't even believe that he's just misinformed. No way in hell he's this misinformed. If he is this misinformed, he needs to be removed through the 25th Amendment immediately because he is completely incompetent and completely incapable of being the president for being so stupid. I don't believe that. He is very obviously malicious here, right? Can we all agree on that? Anyway, check this one out. This one is chilling, what he says here.
People that are citizens of our country or not?
No, you aren't deporting citizens at this point.
Well, let me ask you, did they get hearings when Biden allowed 21 million, because I think the number is 20 million people to flow into our country? Yet
that's not what happened. That's not how it works.
21 million people that came into our country through a stupid open border, and they were prisoners, and they were...
The answer is yes. Biden did give those people hearings, actually. In fact, the reason that there's a hole in the border in the first place is because it's a humanitarian corridor. The UN expects countries to have humanitarian corridors to, create a path, an entry path for refugees to go to the nearest UN refugee center where they can request asylum status. That's why that hole is there, so that they can make their way to the UN center to apply for asylum. Unfortunately, Greg Abbott, governor of Texas at this moment, has been putting razor wire in the river to cut men, women, and children to shreds before they can reach the shore and things like that. Now, when they apply for asylum status by arriving at the refugee center, they get a hearing. That's how this works. Yes, they get hearings. Additionally, I believe that it's only 18 million people are immigrants at all in the country. Like, undocumented, documented, whatever. How many immigrants, documented or undocumented, lived in the United States as of 2024? Okay, so the U.S. had an estimated 47.8 million immigrants, documented or not. 24% were lawful permanent residents, green card holders. 4% held legal temporary status, like work or student visas. 49% were naturalized U.S. citizens. 23% were undocumented immigrants. So let's see, 23%. This is according to Pew Research, by the way. Yeah, so we're looking at about 10 million people that are undocumented. 10 million people. So we're talking about vegans and Jehovah's Witnesses combined as a group. That's how many undocumented immigrants there are in the United States, or were in 2024. And Trump says there are 21 or 22 million or whatever. No. Additionally, that's how many have been here. That's not how many crossed the border. That's not how many snuck in or whatever. That's not how many came in, under Biden's whatever. The reason this is important is because Trump is encouraging the idea and spreading the idea, the QAnon idea, effectively, that these people are part of an invading army. He's spreading the idea that they're able-bodied, military-aged men, all 10 million, or all 20 million in his head. And they are coming in to organize and create, a Trojan horse style, create sleeper cells so they can strike when the time is right. Why? Why would anybody do that? You got me? I have no fucking clue. It's just fictitious trash, and it's the basis. This is a great replacement conspiracy theory, too, by the way. This works into the great replacement conspiracy. And all the conspiracies you're hearing from Trump, from the Republicans about immigrants was said about immigrants, aka Jews, in World War II, or leading up to it, 1933 and earlier. The Jews were referred to as alien immigrants in Germany. Though they had lived there for hundreds of years, they were referred to as aliens. This is exactly how it played out in Germany. Identical. Going off on a little bit of a tangent here for a second, but I always wondered to myself, how did it get so extreme in Germany? How did people work themselves into a blood frenzy that way? What was that environment like? How politically charged and polarized it must have been. And to watch everything crumble in front of you like that, to watch, Hitler just violate the Constitution flagrantly, completely ignore it, take emergency powers and start doing heinous. What must it have been like to watch this unfold in front of you as an advocate for democracy? And now I know. Now I know what the culture is like, necessary to justify shipping others, quote unquote, to concentration camps. Now I know what the environment's like when a president takes control of the country and ignores the Constitution completely. It is about as disturbing as it gets. In 1933, I think March 27th, maybe? I could be wrong on that date. Wait, was it March 27th? Yeah, I think it was. Hitler used the Enabling Act, which is basically emergency powers. It was put into the Constitution effectively because the framers of the German Constitution, when it was set up after World War I, 1919, I think, could see a civil war brewing under the surface. And they wanted the president, the chancellor, to be able to quell this rebellion when it happened. That's why they put that in there in the first place. The thing about emergency powers is once they're activated, they're often not deactivated. If it's a democracy, emergency powers can be used safely generally. Justin Trudeau used emergency powers to deal with like the trucker, whatever was going on forever ago in Canada over the vaccine. And then he let the emergency powers go. Hitler didn't really violate the Constitution. He stretched it as far as he possibly could. Maybe bent it just a little bit, and then just take that little leap over the edge to get to where he wanted to go until he could finally use the Enabling Act and justify it to the public. That's what happened with Trump. It's the exact thing. He's using the Alien Enemies Act as an emergency power. It's a wartime power. Not supposed to be used outside of war. He's using the Alien Enemies Act of 1797, I think, or whatever, to assume emergency powers to send the aliens, quote unquote, to concentration camps. If you ever wondered which side you would be on in World War II, if you ever wondered what that environment would be like, now you know. Now I know. Anyway, due process has existed in society since the Magna Carta, like 1200s or something. Due process. Everybody deserves a trial. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Everybody deserves a hearing, at the very least. A hearing. That is a fundamental piece of any government. Any government. But certainly a democracy. And Trump is saying, no, we don't need that anymore. We're done with due process. Literally exactly what happened in Germany, by the way.
And they were prisoners, and they were people that you don't want in many
No, that's not you. It's the video.
cases in our country.
That too.
Right? They came from all over the world. They came from the Congo. They came from South. They came from all over the world.
It's just a lie. There's not an army moving over the U.S. border.
Talking about some of the roughest countries in the world they had here, including terrorists, by the way. Now,
no. Do you know the 9/11 terrorists, the hijackers that came to America? They came here legally. They came here 100% legally and lived here and had a whole life. They took, flight school here and everything because they didn't want to raise eyebrows. They didn't want to draw unwanted attention. Terrorists don't come in through the asylum process. That's not what happens, ever. But, I guess I'm probably expecting too much from Donald Trump. Tell me in the comments. I want to see a poll, a yes or a no. How many of you believe Donald Trump is one of those people that thinks that chocolate milk comes from brown cows? Who thinks he's one of that 7%?
They had here, including terrorists, by the way. Now,
but
did we give them a hearing when they came in?
Well, the law requires that every single person who is going to be deported gets a hearing first.
Well,
do you acknowledge that?
I'll have to ask the lawyers.
Are you f***ing kidding me? You took an oath to the Constitution. There is no ask a lawyer about it. Did you read the Constitution? Because you swore an oath of loyalty to it. You better have read that thing. Is Trump one of the 7% of the U.S. that believes chocolate milk comes from brown cows? Yeah, leave it at that. Start poll. We'll find out. We'll get to the bottom of this. I bet he is. Near guarantee, right? Anyway, let's continue.
To be deported gets a hearing first.
Well,
do you acknowledge that?
I'll have to ask the lawyers about that. All I can say is this. If you're going to have 21 million people, and if we have to get a lot of them out because they're criminals, we're going to have to act fast. We can't. Do you think we can give 21 million trials?
Yes. Hearings? Yes. We can give 21 million hearings. Also, it's not 21 million, it's 10 million. But yeah, you know how we do it? By having multiple judges to rule over it. That's how. How many hearings could they fit in there per day? Say 12 hearings a day, maybe, one every 45 minutes, and then lunch or whatever, and some breaks. Maybe 12 hearings a day, right? Talking 10 million undocumented immigrants divided by 12 hearings a day, divided by 5 days a week, right? Divided by 4 weeks a month. So we would need a total of about 41,000 judges to do it in a month. If we wanted to do it in a year, we could do it with 3,000 judges. We could have all 10 million of them adjudicated in a year with 3,000 judges. In 2 years, it would only take 1,700 judges. In Trump's term, it would only take 800 judges to adjudicate all of them within his term. So yeah, we can give all of them trials. Even with Trump's ridiculous, inflated, double what it actually is number, it's still only 1,700 judges to get it done in his term. I don't understand what the problem is. And for the record, it doesn't matter how long it would take. The Constitution says you get a hearing. Period. For the record, Donald Trump did not put his hand on the Bible when he took the oath of office. Not that it means anything, not that he gives a shit about the Bible, but he did not put his hand on it. And Shane Vaughn, a Trump extremist nutcase, came up with all kinds of ridiculous excuses for why that is.
Melania had that Bible in her hands, okay? Before Melania could get there with the Bible, Justice Roberts had already started the oath. When she got up there, she, who happens to be him because they are one,
just got the delusion to make this justification.
She was holding her hand on the Bible. These two shall become one. So yes, he did because his wife did, okay?
So stupid. The point is that Donald Trump doesn't care about the Constitution. He didn't swear an oath to it in his own mind because he didn't put his hand on it. He is just a vile human being.
Million trials. Let's say each trial takes 2 weeks. Is that what you want us to do?
The law
Give
is
21
the law,
million?
Like they can burn through, 12 trials a day. And maybe those trials, maybe you have to come back to those trials in 2 weeks. And also they're hearings, not trials. But it can still be done in 4 years with 1,700 judges at absolute worst.
The law is the law, and you're
the law
sworn
doesn't
to
say anything
uphold it.
about trials.
No, not trials, hearings. I said
These
hearings.
people came in, they're not citizens. They came in illegally.
They didn't come in illegally. They came in as asylum seekers, as refugees. That is not illegal. That is legal. I understand that there are some undocumented immigrants, people who overstayed their visas and stuff, but most of those people, to my understanding, are people that came in planes. Like they flew here in planes and just overstayed the visa.
Came into our country illegally.
And
We have to get them out.
There's a legal process for that.
I can't, sure, and we follow the legal process.
No, you don't. That's the problem.
I can't I can't have a trial, a major trial for every person that came in illegally. We have thousands of murderers that came in.
Then put them in jail. I don't understand what the point is here. If they're murderers, then jail them for murder.
To murder people. They already have murdered people in our country.
Right, so
we have to get them out, and we have to get them out fast.
Really bad guys, but in our country, even bad guys get due process, right?
If people come into our country illegally, there's a different standard.
No, there isn't. There is not a different standard. They are under the jurisdiction of the Constitution of the United States. They get due process. Pretty much in fact, I'll go this far. Every single democratic constitution in the world, that's active now at the very least, has a due process thing in it. Almost certainly. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's one. But this is fundamental, and it's been fundamental to democracy for 800 years.
These are illegal. They came in illegally.
But they get
due process. But they get due process. Doesn't matter if they're illegal. Doesn't matter if they're aliens, as Hitler called them. Doesn't matter if they're immigrants. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Everyone gets due process. You don't send people to concentration camps unless you know who they are. How do you even know that that is Kilmar Abrego Garcia? For sure. You didn't give him a trial. Supposed to adjudicate this. Anyway, like, it's vile, and it's honestly deeply horrific to watch this unfold. I truthfully hope that I don't end up in a concentration camp like that. Seriously. That is disturbing. Tell me what you think in the comments.